So the point I'm motivating is that a competitive firm looks at the demand that they face as being perfectly elastic. Even though the market demand is downward sloping, each of the firms in a competitive market structure looks at the demand that they're facing as horizontal. Why? Because if they raise their price a little bit from the market-determined price, given that they're price takers, then what will happen? What will happen? They will sell nothing, right? Because all the buyers will turn to the other mini sellers that are out there to access the same product that's interchangeable with the product that this firm is selling. Now, suppose they charge a price that was a little bit lower than the competitively determined equilibrium price. What would happen then? Pardon? Everybody would buy from it. They will exhaust all of their supply, right? And then they, the buyers, will turn to others. So a competitive firm looks at the market as though the demand it faces is perfectly elastic. It can increase the quantity, and in doing so, they wouldn't expect any fall in the price that they receive. Now, there's a sharp contrast between this lens on a market structure and the lens for a monopolist. Because the monopolist is the only seller in the market. He or she doesn't have to worry about substitutes, doesn't have to worry about entry, because there are significant barriers to entry, and as a result, we move on to a monopolist and look at the monopolist's demand curve. Now, if there's only a single seller in the market, the demand curve facing the monopolist is the market demand curve, right? Right? Is that correct? Okay, to sell a larger quantity, the firm must reduce its price, because this demand curve, the law of demand says, yeah, you can move a larger quantity through this market if you want, but if you attempt to do so, you're going to receive a lower price. Thus, the marginal revenue for a monopolist is not equal to price. While for a competitive market structure, the price is equal to the marginal revenue, right? Gene, help me. Why are you shaking your head? You just thinking through it? Okay. But maybe you saw something I didn't. Okay. All right. Here's our first active learning example. What I'd like you to do is for Common Grounds, which is the only seller of cappuccinos in a local town. Obviously, that's not in the Bay Area anywhere, right? It's probably, where is it? It's probably Peoria, Illinois, or someplace. But it's the only seller of cappuccinos in the town. What I'd like you to do is fill out the missing cells. Visit with your neighbors, and then I'll call on someone to give me the right answer. Okay, we got to sort it out, right? Gloria, what's the answer? I'm sorry. Okay. Shh, shh. Right. Okay. Okay, and what's the message out of that column with regard to average revenue? Right. It's tautological, right? Average revenue is the price. So the interesting part of this table, however, is the marginal revenue. So what's the marginal revenue? Pardon? Good. That's a good beginning. Pardon? The change in price? No. It wouldn't be the change in price, right? Can't be the change in price. But you're moving in the right direction. You're moving in the right direction, but you're not there. Go ahead. Pardon? It's constantly decreasing. But what is it? Pardon? No, it's not marginal cost. No, we're talking about marginal revenue here. I'm not letting you go. Come on. First of all, it's got to be off the total revenue schedule, right? Because we're talking about marginal revenue. Just like when we measured marginal cost, we started with total cost, and we look at the change in total cost as a result of a change in quantity. And from that, we could compute marginal cost. Here, too, now we're not looking at cost, we're looking at revenues. So we would do precisely the same thing. You've got the schedule with regard to what the answer is. Gloria just told us what the total revenues were. She told us what the average revenues are. Now, if we're going to compute marginal revenues, it's got to be off of this column, right? And marginal revenue. Incremental revenue. If I move from a quantity of 1 unit to 2 units, what's my marginal revenue? It's obvious. It's right up there. What is it? Are you still thinking, or are you trying to avoid me? What? Okay. I'm not going to stop until you stop thinking. Yeah, but, okay, find the change in the total revenues. Here we go. Suppose I'm at 1 unit, and I'm going to evaluate moving to 2 units. What happens to total revenue? forget about your increase at decreasing rate. That's not the question, right? The question is very simple. As I move from 1 to 2 units selling in the market, what happens to total revenue? It changes. By how much does it change? Exactly. So what's the marginal revenue? Exactly. It's no more complicated than that. So we go through the process of doing this analysis with regard to each change, and we get the final column here, which is the marginal revenue. Did you already know the answer? Is that why you said it decreases? Why didn't you give me the number? I was asking for the number. I wasn't asking for its properties. I was asking for a number. Okay. So we can take this schedule, and we can construct our demand curve, which is here. And moreover, we can construct the marginal revenue, because we've already got a table here, and this would be the marginal revenue for this company selling cappuccinos, right? Okay. So it's clear that in the case of a monopoly market structure, marginal revenue is not equal to price. And the fundamental reason for this is that the monopolist, if it wants to increase the amount of quantity of selling in the market, must evaluate what will be the price consequences of doing so. Because they can't sell at a constant price. They are not a price taker. They are a price maker. And any change in quantities that it's trying to sell is going to have two opposing effects. There's going to be an output effect, and there's going to be a price effect. Why are these effects opposing? Paul, why?
The output effect and the price effect are opposing.
Opposing. Because, right, you restate the question. I hope you're thinking as you're restating the question. You're not? Okay. Okay. Opposing. Maybe a different way. They're inversely related. How about that? Does that make any difference? It doesn't help? Kanwar, why? Tell us. You what? You were behind the slide? Okay. Let's see if we can stay up with the slides, okay? All right. They're inversely related. Why are they inversely related? No, I know you know the answer. I know you know the answer, too. I want someone to think through it. Yes. I was looking for something much simpler. The law of demand. The law of demand. The price curve, the demand curve that the monopolist is looking at, there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity, right? It's no more complicated than that. Hey, by the way, in regard, sometimes when you raise your hands, I want a sidebar. I went through the list, and I'm getting to know all of you in terms of certainly what you described about yourselves. And I went through, and there are about 11 people who I am convinced knows what's going on at every point in time in this class. That's too few. Now, maybe I'm misinformed, right? Because I don't fully understand what you are comprehending versus what you're not, and I'll find out much better at the midterm, but that's not a perfect measure either. But for those of you who aren't in that small set, please do your best to increase the size, because I'll feel a lot better, and I presume you'll feel a lot better as well. Is that clear? Do we understand where we are here? Okay? And it's not obvious you're one of those people. All right, so there's two effects. They're inversely related. There's an output effect and there's a price effect. I meant by one of those people, one of the 10 or 11. Do you understand? Okay. All right. Okay. Now, to sell a larger quantity, the monopolist must reduce the price on all the units it sells. So let's see if we can link up here this fundamental trade-off between the price effect and the quantity effect and bring forward all of our discussion about elasticities. So stop for a moment. You're going to have to think about this. All right? Let's suppose that the demand curve facing the monopolist is very inelastic. Okay? Now, if it's very inelastic, which effect will dominate? The quantity effect or the price effect? You got this one, Paul?
Price effect.
Okay, good. That's the right answer. Now tell us why.
Profit maximizing.
Profit maximizing?
Yeah.
That's true. They're all, by the way.
They probably have complete control over the market, and so they could increase their profit because the price is elastic, people are willing to pay whatever they set the price is.
That's true. That's certainly true. Fair enough. But I think actually the answer is much simpler than whether we're presuming rationality with regard to the monopolist or the competitive firm. The issue with regard to this trade-off that a monopolist faces, if the demand curve is very inelastic, clearly a small move in quantity, there's going to be a huge move in price, right? Given how inelasticity is measured. Okay? So the monopolist, if it's increasing quantity, then it has to be very careful, right? Because the price effect may dominate the quantity effect. Now it comes to your point about profit maximization. At what point will they sit with regard to that trade-off between the price effect and the quantity effect? Change it and ask yourself the question, what happens if the demand curve facing the monopolist is very elastic? Now the question is, which dominates? The quantity effect up here, this quantity effect, does this effect dominate or does the price effect dominate? Somebody just whispered the right answer. But could someone volunteer and explain? Yes. Yes. And the reason is? Right. Okay. So clearly, the monopolist is going to care about the responsiveness of buyers that they're selling their product to. Even though there's no competition, the monopolist has to be very sensitive to how sensitive their buyers are. And a measure of their sensitivity, price sensitivity, quantity sensitivity, is represented by the elasticity of demand. Okay. Okay. And once again, we enumerate that marginal revenue for a monopolist must be less than price. And if we go back to our active learning example, it turns out that marginal revenue can be negative. And if it's negative and you're increasing quantity, you're doing so by detracting from the total revenues that are being generated, right? And by the way, at what point is total revenues the largest? Or at what point is total revenues maximized? Gene? Pardon? Exactly. When marginal revenue is zero, and for those of you who feel comfortable with calculus, it's just maximizing total revenue, and the first order condition for that maximization is marginal revenue is set equal to zero, and you solve the quantity from that equation, right? However, you're not held responsible for calculus in this course, right? Yes, Jimmy? Yes, we'll see in a moment. Once you take into account the cost, yes, you're certainly not going to have as an optimal decision selling 6. You hear? Okay, we'll see that in a moment. All right, now we go to your point about profit maximization. Once again, the fundamental principles, think at the margin, set incremental benefits to incremental cost. And in the case of the monopolist, this is setting the monopolist's marginal revenue equal to the monopolist's marginal cost. And, Gene, given your statement about at what point total revenues are maximized, at what point are profits maximized? Right. And that is the decision rule for maximizing total profits, which may not be the same, and you wouldn't expect it to be the same as maximizing total revenues. Right? Okay, once the monopolist determines that quantity for that decision rule, it will end up setting a price to consumers that the consumers, at the margin, are willing to pay for that quantity. And where does that come from? Remember, the demand curve is a summarization of all buyers' willingness to pay, right? So that has to come from the demand curve, not the marginal revenue curve. Let's look at this graphically. So the decision rule that we've just isolated is that the monopolist is going to end up computing its marginal revenue curve, and the decision rule for the optimal quantity is the point at which marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, right? And for that particular quantity, Q, that's the profit maximizing output. Now the question is, what price will the market determine for that quantity? Now, the monopolist can set either price or quantity. In this framework, the outcome is going to be the same, right? So now the monopolist takes that quantity and comes up to the demand curve to determine what the price is that he or she will charge. Okay? So the actual price that a monopolist is going to end up charging is off the buyer's willingness to pay, the demand curve that the monopolist faces. Okay? Now, let's take this graph, and what I'd like someone to do is to volunteer and explain to me graphically how I can represent the profits that this monopolist will generate. No volunteers? You guys, I know you know the answer. Okay, let's get some other people involved. Doesn't seem as though Megan is here today. So Hannah, take the place of Megan. Tell me what the answer is. Don't be shy. Speak up. First of all, let's start stepwise. What's missing from this graphical display that we would need to show graphically what the profits are that the monopolist is capturing? No. Listen closely to my question. What's missing? Don't go directly to profits. First, tell me what's missing. I can't get to profit. Say what? Your total revenue? Yes. Right. There we go. What's missing here, you're exactly right, is average total cost. Is that what you're going to say, Cameron? It's average total cost that is missing. Okay, so if you had average total cost, how would you represent graphically what is the profits that are captured by this monopolist given it's setting this quantity and it's charging this price? Yes, it's going to be a rectangle, exactly. So as Hannah explained, we have to have the average total cost. That's drawn here as this particular curve right here, and this is the quantity that's being produced and sold in the marketplace. And the difference for that quantity is this price less this average total cost, right? So the actual profits in this graph then is represented, as Hannah said, by this rectangle here, namely price less average total cost times the quantity that's being sold. Whoops, I'm sorry. And that is the rectangle that I shaded here. Okay? So whenever you want to sit down and represent what the profit is, regardless of what the market structure is, whether it's competitive, whether it's a monopoly, and on the next lecture when we look at oligopolies, it's the same story. We want to compare the price that they're capturing for the quantity they're sold, what is the average total cost that they incur to capture that price, and we can represent the profits in terms of the rectangle along the lines in this particular graph. Okay. Now, an aside. You have to keep in mind when we're talking about the competitive structure, we went through the analysis and we explained that if I know what the price is and I know the firm's marginal cost, okay, I can immediately determine the quantity that the firm will offer to the market. Right? So, and the marginal cost curve is the short-run supply curve for a particular firm. Remember when we move back and forth between a firm panel on the left side to the industry or the market as a whole on the right side? The natural conclusion there was all I need is the supply curve, and if the market determines the price, I will know immediately from that supply curve what the quantity decision is going to be by a competitive firm. Why? Because the competitive firm is maximizing profits and it's setting prices, market prices, equal to its marginal cost. And the supply curve is the marginal cost. Right? Now, what happens here with a monopolist? Can you still do that? Can you? Can you construct a supply curve as we did for a competitive firm? Can you construct that same supply curve, which would tell you what the optimal quantity that's going to be offered to the marketplace by a particular price? Now, you already know the answer, because I've told you at the top of the slide. You can't do that. And why can't you do it? That's what this slide is attempting to explain. First, it begins with the contrast, namely a competitive firm. The supply curve tells us immediately what quantity will be offered by that firm given a particular price. In contrast, a monopoly firm, since it is not a price taker, but instead